From Los Angeles, and welcome to Stock Market Today. On today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the likes of Axon Enterprise as well as Mastercard and Anaplan. But we begin with a look at the major indexes. It's Alyssa Core. I'm here with Justin Nielsen, and Justin, we saw a very strong session today, led by the Nasdaq's 2% plus gain. The S&P and Dow up about 1.5% each. So a very strong day, kind of breaking out of this messy range-bound action that we've been seeing.
Right, and so we've been kind of using as our guidepost the high of the 24th of January for the Nasdaq and the low of Monday, January 27th. And so we were kind of in what Ed was calling the coronavirus range. You know, we were kind of going right in those ranges. And the feeling was that if it could break above that 24th level, the high, or if it breaks below the 27th low, you were going to kind of see a change potentially in the trend. But what we were seeing was actually flat action. Ideally, I personally would have liked to see a little bit more. But you don't always get what you want, and it's hard to argue when you're like, oh, there were so many stocks that were, doing so well today. So, it's hard to complain when you're making money, but it's certainly, I would have preferred a longer pause, but we did break above those January 24th highs. We are in new high ground in the Nasdaq composite, and even though it was off a little bit from its highs, that was still a 2% gain, as you mentioned. There's nothing wrong with that. And, it didn't even come down to the 50-day moving average line. I mean, the S&P 500 did, but the Nasdaq really kind of just hovered right around its 21-day exponential moving average line and got support very quickly, bounced right back from there, and now we're back at new highs. Yeah,
breakouts and big moves aplenty, and we'll take a look at a couple of those now, starting with Anaplan, which gained about 5.8% today in the enterprise software group. This is a name that had been consolidating for quite some time, but now breaking out, Justin, and closing at session highs.
Right, and one of the things that we've been talking about on this show quite a bit was that software was one of those things, that sector was showing a lot of strength relative to the market. It wasn't coming down as much, and so we were kind of telling people, like, this is a tell right here. This is, these are the ones that you want to take a look at. And so Anaplan is just one of many. I mean, you can go down the list. There's, CRM, there's just a whole host of enterprise software names that have been doing well. Now, one issue that Anaplan does have is it does not have profitability. It has a good record of strong sales growth, a very long record of strong sales growth, but it doesn't have profits. So there are other names if you want to look for profitable names, but this was a very solid breakout of that, that consolidation. You can't actually see the left-hand side of the cup in this case, but it's a breakout from a cup-shaped base, and you could have even gotten an earlier entry, but now it's actionable right now.
Right, and
still in buy range.
Yes, and you did mention the lack of profitability here. Anaplan went public in 2018, so I guess we'll give it I don't know, not a pass, but we do see these younger public companies without that bottom line growth. So we like looking at the strong sales growth.
Yes, that is one of those things where you can kind of say, okay, it didn't have this, but it did have this very strongly, and so sometimes we'll make some exceptions. But ideally, you have it all, right?
But we know that this is a strong group.
Yes,
so that,
absolutely.
Like you said, a very good
So you got those headwinds, not headwinds, tailwinds.
Yes.
Really helping you out, push the stock ahead.
That's right. And now let's take a look at one of our long-term leaders, Mastercard, because this stock gained 1.4% today, breaking out of one of these shorter consolidations, Justin. Not quite mirroring the Nasdaq, but it has that feel of breaking to new highs after a little bit of a consolidation.
And here again, this was a group that was having a lot of strength in the payment processors in particular. This was not the only one. You had Fiserv, you had PayPal. There were a number of names in this group that were doing very well. And you might look at the gain and say, oh well, gosh, that's barely what the S&P 500 did. But this is one. It might be a little bit slower, but it has a steady movement. And in fact, we've had this on leaderboard since January of last year. And so it's just one that it's easy to hold. This is one where you don't necessarily have to sell when it breaks the 10-week moving average line because it does tend to come back. So we're using the 40-week moving average line in this case. But it definitely has profitability and a very long record of very stable earnings growth.
Yeah. So when it comes to buying a name like this, what would be the strategy there? Because it is, like you said, a long-term leader. It's breaking out over this little consolidation here, not quite your standard chart pattern. But the pullback in this one was really only to a shorter-term moving average.
Yeah, exactly. And we have the 21-day moving average line shown on a lot of these charts because you can see that these stocks were the ones that didn't even come down to their 50-day moving average lines. These were stopping at their 21 days. And Mastercard is an example of that. Short consolidation, right back up into new high ground. It's kind of like what's not to like.
All right. Well, moving on, let's take a look at Axon Enterprises. That stock gaining some 5.4% today, breaking out of its own small consolidation, following up on a breakout of a double bottom base here, which it's not quite a rare chart pattern, but it's I guess a little more unique.
Well, we talk so much about the cups,
Yeah.
So and it seems like there have been so many of those. The double bottom hasn't been appearing as much, and that's usually dependent on the market that you have. A more volatile and violent market will see more double bottoms. But Axon and on IBD Live, we've been talking a lot about Tesla's move, and Mike Webster has been mentioning how he's been really studying the old Taser move, and of course Axon Enterprises is Taser. They changed the name, but this is something. He's been very active on Twitter, kind of showing the example of Taser. But this is actionable now. It's another one that got support at its 21-day moving average line. Kind of really came down to the exact level you'd like to see it come down to. It got support right at the previous buy point, and kind of just got support right there, and now it's bouncing back up strongly. This is one that we added to Swing Trader today.
Yeah, and this is a turnaround. In earnings, we just saw that go 40% positive after a string of declines.
Yeah, I think it was four quarters of declines, if I remember correctly, in earnings. So, when you see that turnaround, it's very normal that you'll also see the price kind of start, turning around as well. Sometimes the price will actually turn around before the earnings do.
That's a good point. We like that strong double-digit growth. And guess what, everyone? The conversation will continue on IBD Live. Make sure you're catching that every morning from 10 minutes before the opening bell through the first hour of trade every morning at investors.com/IBD Live. Check it out if you have not already. Again, very in-depth analysis. You're getting that real-time feedback for actionable trades.
Yes, and one of the things too is it's not just about stocks that are moving, but it's also how do you handle them? Because we'll talk about stocks that might be not actionable and extended, but where is it that you start looking to sell, and how do you handle your portfolio?
Exactly,
so those are important too.
Because we know the market can move so quickly, so it's all about that follow up. When it's breaking out, the days that are following, where to add, where to sell. So good
a lot
discussion.
of times we're guided by the questions that we get from people. We see something that a lot of people are asking questions on, and we're like, oh, you know what? Let's address this because this is something I'm sure a lot of people are asking the same question.
Yeah, very good point. And you can also check us out across social media, whether that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. We are there. You mentioned Mike is on Twitter. Right now, actually, we have a little contest going. Who can have the best GIF related to their feelings on the Tesla stock move? So make sure you check that out, investors.
And just everyone know that she said GIF, not gift. I misheard that earlier, and I thought she was going to give me a Tesla.
I thought you were going to give me a Tesla. All right. Anyway, we'll work it out offline. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.